What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Touchdown with Doug Smith. Now, this episode you're definitely gonna want to stick by because I have legendary Miami Dolphin, current CBS Sports announcer Kim Bokamper in the house with us today. As a matter of fact, we're even going to talk about his story, his brief role in Ace Ventura, and we're even going to talk about the 2020 Dolphins and a few comparisons. Got a bunch of good stuff in here for the show tonight. Stay tuned.
Touchdown with Doug Smith, got him beat Waylay. Bricks provide the hits, paving tracks I lay. Throwing haymakers, I don't need a hook.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Touchdown with Doug Smith. Right now, I have a very special person here in the room with me here today. Miami Dolphins legend, 9-year veteran, even appeared in a Super Bowl for us as well, too. Part of the legendary killer beast for the Miami Dolphins. Folks, I have Kim Bokamper. How you doing today, sir?
I'm great. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. I'm so happy that you're here today. I really appreciate it.
It's good to be here with you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, absolutely. Man, you have such an amazing story. I mean, you played for the Dolphins for dang near a decade. You know, also as well. I mean, you started in Ace Ventura at one point in time. You got to punch Jim Carrey in the face.
I did. Yeah.
that was pretty awesome. I actually went back. I was like, wait. I was putting my notes together for the show. I was like, this guy was in Ace Ventura. I remember the shower scene. You had the knot right here.
I always tell people it's like it was like getting a tattoo. It took 4 hours to get done, and I can never get rid of it. So.
Oh, really? That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it was a great movie and whatnot. So yeah, you played with some great people. I mean, you played with Dan Marino, God rest his beautiful soul, Nick Bulancotti, and Don Shula, and others. I mean, part of the Killer Bees. I mean, what has that journey been like for you, being part of it?
Oh, it's been good. It was good for me. I mean, I grew up in Northern California, and initially, a 49er fan, and we also had the Raiders on the East Bay. So you kind of were split between those two teams. But funny, in 1972 or 1971, I became a Dolphin fan just watching the Dolphins play Kansas City in 1971 in a playoff. It was the longest game ever played at that time. I think it still is, to get them to their first into their first playoff or their first Super Bowl. So I became a fan then, and then not too many years later, 4 years later, there I am on the team, and I walk in the locker room, and there's Nick Bulancotti and Dick Anderson and Jake Scott and Bob Greasy and all the guys who were on that 72 team. So I was kind of like a kid in a candy store, and very fortunate that I had the opportunity to play and become friends with a lot of those guys. And so it's the whole thing has been it was an experience for me as a football player, but it was also an experience for me as a fan to be able to be. I kind of tell people I was that guy that was everyone wants to be the fly on the wall. Well, I was on fly on the wall for 10 years, so I enjoyed every minute of it too. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Yeah, I honestly don't know what I'd do. I'd be like, before we practice, can I get a picture with you? That's awesome.
I didn't quite go that way. I kind of, you kind of have to go in there and kind of have to walk in that locker room and stake your ground, so that all that other stuff comes a little later. You got to kind of earn your stripes before you can get too far into it.
They're like, hey, don't get too happy, kid.
That's exactly it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And then, of course, you had almost 10-year NFL career, and Dolphins. We've been in rough shape for the last 2 decades. But I just say how much. This ain't even a question, but just to say how much we appreciate you being in the South Florida community. I mean, I remember, as I mentioned before, I started this interview here. My dad was in the Navy, so growing up, he would always tell me about you. Jake Scott, all the Dolphin greats and stuff like that. So, and I collect football cards at a young age. So I watched the 72 Dolphins Super Bowl and all the other Super Bowls on VHS growing up. So I knew my Dolphins history.
Good for you.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate you. Now, obviously, the Miami Dolphins, they have been, the last 2 decades have been, wow. It's been testy, it's been tough. We went through a lot of coaches, a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of personnel, culture changes. What's the difference between the Dolphins now and, say, the last 2 decades?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that happened over the last couple of decades. Don Shula retiring, and that certainly kind of began what was the downward slide of the Dolphins. After he had a couple good years, Dave Wannstedt and Jimmy Johnson came in and did some pretty good things in there. But then after that, it became a long slide, of bad draft choices, bad coaching choices, all those types of things, front office personnel. And I just think that over the last couple of years, I think Mr. Ross, put the, with the help of Tom Garfinkel, the CEO, who really I don't think gets enough credit for what he's done helping on the football side. But he's become a confidant and somebody that Mr. Ross relies on quite a bit. And so, they just decided that, hey, look, we've been in a quagmire for 2 decades, and the only way to get out of it is to do something drastic. And they did that last year when they got rid of a lot of really good players, accumulated a lot of draft equity, accumulated a lot of salary cap, and then went out in free agency and went and got players. And they've done that before, but I think they did a better job of choosing personnel, choosing guys to spend their money on. And then when the draft came around, you had the opportunity with 3 first-round draft choices to get TUA, the quarterback, and Austin Jackson, a good offensive tackle, Igbenogany, who I think is going to be a good player. I think he just needs to kind of, have a couple years under his belt. I think he's going to be a good player. And then you go out and you have guys coming from the last couple of years. Andrew Van Ginkel has turned into a really good football player for us. Christian Wilkins is doing what we expected him to do. And so there's a really good football team. It's a really good young nucleus of players. And I think everybody, I'm not surprising anybody by saying that the other thing is they hit on a great coach. I think Brian Flores is absolutely the right guy. He's got absolutely the right demeanor. He's got a way of being a disciplinarian, of being tough on his team, of coaching them up hard, but also of being able to talk to him. And I asked him one day, I said, I saw him talking to one of the players, and I said, Coach, you see you talking to some of these guys out there. Do you try to talk? He says, and he told me, he said, look, I try to, at least once a week, I try to talk to every player on this team one-on-one, whether it's just, hey, how's your family doing? How are you doing? Just communicate with them on a one-to-one basis, so that when you've got to have the tough conversations, there's a relationship there. So I think he's done well with that, and he's done a good job putting his staff together. And look, make no mistake about it. We've seen it for the last 2 decades. You got to get a quarterback, and we got a quarterback. Yeah. And barring any unforeseen injuries going forward, I think quarterbacks these days, you look across the board with quarterbacks, a franchise guy, they last 17 years, 15, 17, 20 years. Mm-hmm. So if he can play to the level we expect, that should keep us in the dogfight for the next at least 15 years. And I tell you, that'd be a welcome relief from the last 2 decades that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. What did they say? He was like the 21st or 20th quarterback since Marino left. It's like, one with a nightmare end.
Yeah, but fortunately it's over now, at least for the time being. So we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely. And I know you've done some work with like CBS Sports, and you got a super awesome podcast, The Audible. Definitely, I'll make sure I have the link down below in the description. And you say you've spoken with Brian Flores. What are some of the similarities between head coach Brian Flores and obviously Don Shula? What would you say some similarities?
Well, I think from the outset, from my first conversation with him, was that I could see similarities with Coach Shula, and one of them is, I've always said that one of the easiest ways for a football team to get better almost instantaneously is to cut down penalties. And that's something I learned, playing for Coach Shula. He's a stickler with the rules, and he demanded that we played within the parameters of the rules, whether it was in the practice field or whether it was in games. And it kind of became ingrained in you. And this franchise, this team kind of lost that after he left. And I remember when Adam Gase was in, I talked to Adam Gase after one game during a press conference. I said, Coach, you guys had a ridiculous amount of penalties. He said, well, I'm not going to worry about penalties. And as soon as I heard that, I knew he wasn't going to be very successful in this league. But Brian Flores, quite the opposite. I mean, I think he understood and believes that the easiest way to get better is to stop beating yourself. So he instilled that in the football team. And I think everybody that's watched the Dolphins over the last couple of years has seen, he painted the wall, the TNT wall, takes no talent, and it's those things. Takes no talent to stay on sides. It takes no talent, not to grab a guy by the face mask. All those types of things, and so he's brought that message to his team. They've bought into it. He's delivered it the right way, and I think he's the kind of guy that, he's a guy you can believe. When he tells you something, you can believe that's exactly what he means, and that's exactly what he believes. There's no nonsense with him. He's not a he's not a rah-rah guy. He's a serious guy, but he has a way of making everybody around him, including guys like me or other people around him that aren't players for him, feel comfortable and get a feel for just the dynamics of what type of player or what type of coach he is, and more importantly, probably what type of person he is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. You saying that just gets my adrenaline pumped up. I'm like, I see Super Bowls, and I'm starting to believe.
Oh, look, I hope you're right.
I do too. I'm like, but that game last week against Kansas City, that former Super Bowl champions or current Super Bowl champions. I mean, number one team in the NFL, I believe. I'm gonna check my power rankings the last couple of days, but I believe they're number one still. And you see that, and it's just like, wow, like we played really good. I mean, there was some drop passes and stuff like that.
There were opportunities. There were drop balls, and let's not, you gave up a safety. You gave up, you gave up a punt return. Mm-hmm. You had opportunities in that game that allowed them to take a 20-point lead on you, but they came back, got themselves into the game, and it's been a long time since we've seen that. And so I think there were a lot of good things that came out of that game. I think the ability to look at that team and say, hey, we were pretty close to them, mm-hmm. but you also see how far away you are from them to be at the level that they're at right now, and how you have to get there. So I think that was a big game for the Dolphins in a lot of different ways, for them to understand where they are in the landscape of the NFL right now, and where they are and what they've got to do to get to where they want to be.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Definitely a great observation game to see, like, hey, you went up against the best. This is how we did. Here are the opportunities. And I completely agree. Now, back when you guys played, you guys were known as the Killer Bees. What a cool name. And now there's all kinds of names like the Legion of Boom. And, the names go on. I could be here the next hour naming them. What would you name with this defense we currently have at the moment? What would you maybe – do you have any nicknames involved? Or?
I don't do the nickname thing. I leave that to other people,
I got you.
It's to me, it's I grew up and it was, the Fearsome Foursome, the Purple People Eaters, and the Steel Curtain, all those guys, and mm-hmm. and so but they're all made up by somebody, and I would venture to guess if you went to every one of those teams, the Rams, the Vikings, the Steelers, Seattle, it would be a newspaper guy or someone to come up with that name.
Yeah.
Because I don't think players are investing time in nicknames. They may be investing times in what their celebration dance is going to be after a 6 or something, but they leave that there. So that's where it came from. To me, the name came from some writer came up with it, and quite frankly, I think all of us thought it was a pretty stupid name. But then eventually it grew on us, and so Killer Bees still with us.
That's awesome.
Not going away.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Then, of course, to finish off with this, TUA. I remember before, we ended up drafting him, which that was, oh my gosh, that was up to like 3 a.m, adrenaline pumping. Great night, right? Dan Marino was really hyped on him, really, really excited. And I haven't seen Dan Marino get excited like that. Have you gotten a chance to meet Tua yet, or what are your observations?
No, really, I haven't, because, normally I would have been around him quite a bit, but, mm-hmm. With the COVID, I've been on a Zoom with him and stuff like that. But as far as face to face, it's funny because at this time of the year, typically I would, I'd have a pretty good relationship with every coach and the staff and with a vast amount of the players, but like the coaches, I haven't even been around the coaches. I've been around the players. So it's a very different, a different year. And so, yeah, you just haven't had an opportunity to build any of those relationships.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Yeah, this year has just been a real stinker. I mean, heck, even I got COVID at the beginning of the year. Not fun. Lost 9 pounds though, but not fun.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's like a way to start the year, right? Awesome. Well, Mr. Bokamper, I really want to thank you for taking the time on the show. And before you go, I want to tag as much of your information. You have an amazing restaurant. It's called Bokampers.
Yes, we have 5 sports bars, Bokamper Sports Bar and Grill all around South Florida. You can go to bokampers.com and check them out if you're down here. And they're all in the water. We have a place, Bo's Beach. It's right in the ocean. So they're all got the Florida feel to them, and got plenty of sports on TV. So if you're down in South Florida, it's just not hard to miss us. We actually have a restaurant in the airport also in Fort Lauderdale when you come in. So you can't miss us when you come down here.
That's awesome. Folks, I'm going to make sure I go ahead and tag that below in the description. Also, as well, his podcast, The Audible, super duper awesome, super informative. Absolutely love it. Mr. Bokamper, thank you so much for your time today.
Right. My pleasure. Take care. Enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of the season. And, hey, hopefully we can get a playoff game or two in this year.
Yes, that is the prayer. Absolutely.
All right.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Touchdown with Doug Smith. Before you guys go, make sure you go ahead down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button as well, too, and even hit the alerts so that way you get a little ding on your phone. That way, every time episodes come out, you guys know what's up. Also, as well, for Kim Bokamper, I have the links to his podcast and also as well as restaurant down below. You guys make sure you check those out. In the meantime, wash your nasty, stinking hands. There's a virus on the loose. Have a good night, y'all. Peace.
Touchdown.